Chav Hey. And as we pointed out at the onset of this discussion here, we're talking about something extremely subtle. But as subtle as it is, we have to be able to, we are able to really relate to it and to know what it's about. And that is, essentially, we are talking about two madreges in etzem. Etzem hatainug and etzem hatainug. Etzem hatainug the way it is in the tainug itself, in the atzmus. Etzem hatainug the way it is in the chokhmah. In chokhmah, that is also part of atzmus, of etzem. And the whole principle of etzem, and I can't satisfy myself to say, I've already said that this is something which needs to be refreshed all the time, because of the fact that we are in a completely different orientation, particularly in our stage of the game, in our world. But there is no such thing as etzem. There is no reality at all. To the extent that we are able, hopefully none of those present here, but the world itself is able to dismiss the principle of an etzem to the extent that life itself is also not an etzem. Life itself is also a composite of various actions and reactions. It may hit you straight in the face, but you're bound to deny it, because how can there be anything else? If you don't have the principle that there's a first being, then there is no way you can relate to the whole concept. Then everything is a self-created thing, is a reaction to something else. And the principle that there is a first being is not something that is acquired by proof or anything, or by research. This is a human perception, a reality. This is what makes a human being real. So the principle understanding and relating to the concept of etzem is really imperative. It's a phenomenal principle of tremendous significance for us. This is in fact why it's going into such detail, in such different levels, so that we should understand we're talking about something very real. And that etzem, he says, there is different madrigas in the etzem itself. There is the etzem ha'oinag, the way it is in atzmus, and etzem ha'oinag, the way it is in chokhmah ha'atzmus. The chokhmah is also atzmus. That is, again, another challenging concept. Chokhmah is a discovered state. Chokhmah means that you understand something that is not you. It's a discovery element. How is it etzem? So we have to try our best to relate to the concept that there is such thing, that essentially chokhmah is etzem, is in the nefesh, and all the way up in atzmus itself there is chokhmah atzmus. Okay, sufficient for that. Now, we are in the middle of the page Chav Hey. The line starts with Bechinas Keser. Actually, I'm going to go to the line above that. It begins Hamatzil, because I want to. This is all in the middle of one statement. The bechinas atzmos Hamatzil. There's a mamutza. That atik is a mamutza. In Kesed there is two madrigas atik. Atik means that it is separate. It is an atzmus which is remote from Ne'etzol. And yet in the Kesed is a mamutza. Mamutza means that it incorporates both madrigas. And the chinas atzmus hamatzil, because the etzem hamatzil eine beyerech b'yeder hane'etzolim klal. Atzmus hamatzil is not at all in proximity b'yerech or b'yeder. It is not even in that realm of ne'etzolim. What is the categorical distinction, difference? What is the categorical difference between the matzil and ne'etzolim? It is that ne'etzolim, as refined and as supreme that they may be, they have a source. They come into being. Matzil does not have that element. It's a completely different presence. Or bechinas keser, but then the aspect of keser, shekalu mi Beis hamadreges, the atik v'arich, that consists of these two madreges, the one madrege, the element of keser, that consists of two madreges, of atik and arich. In keser, this is the representation of the etzem. Within that, there are two madrigas, atik and arich. And what is atik v'arich? Harehu mamutza. Therefore, the keser is a mamutza, is that which is intermediate, which connects the etzem, the matzil, and the ne'etzolim. And the Mitzvah, after that, we finish this whole discussion, will give us a little bit of a ability to handle to this. Or K'moi Kein Hu, and the similar in is Bameh, at a different level. In that which we say, Pnimius Abo, Hu Pnimius Ati. Pnimius Abba means the Pnimius of Chochmah. Abba is called Chochmah. Why is Chochmah called Abba? Because Abba means father. It is the source of everything else. It is the creator of Bina and Midas. And Pnimius Abba is Hu Pnimius Atik. It is identical to Pnimius Atik. Pnimius Atik. And we mean it literally, that Pnimius of Chochmah is literally the Pnimius of Atik. Which means this is actually an element of the matzil, not ne'etzal. And yet we say the same. We then qualify this, and we say, dim heyois, that even though shezehu bechinas pnimius atik mamos, that this is the bechina of pnimius atik mamos. What does mamos mean? Mamish means not it's similar to it. It is Pnimius Atik. It is the Pnimius Atik that is sensed in Pnimius Chochmah. The very same. Shelamayla memadregas Chochmah, which is above the Madrega Chochmah. In other words, this is not that Chochma approximates Atik. This is literally Atik, Pnimis Atik. Shezehu she'imrim, and this is what we say, al zeh, regarding this Madregi of Chochma, V'le yodaiti hatam. I do not know the time, I don't know the taste, I don't know the reason. The Hainu, which means that this Madregi of Chochma shehu bibchinas lo yodaiti. It is in that category of lo yodaiti, even though we call it Chochma, but it is not a noble Chochma. K'mei lo yoda v'lo yisyada. He does not know, and he is not know. In other words, this is not a chokhmah that lends itself to be known. It is not a chokhmah that represents something that on outside of the essence. No, it's atik mamush. And yet still, happening is the atik. It's not similar, it's not comparable. The bechin of pnimis atik meishu be'atik mamos, that this pnimis atik, the way it is in the atik itself, and the way that pnimis atik comes in the bechin of chokhmah. The word atik. Atik?
Yes.
Atik means remote, removed. We'll step down again to the experience of sight. We pointed out that sight is something which occurs totally effortlessly. In other words, it is like it's an attic. It is there because it is there. And the experience of sight is totally effortless, which means we're actually relating to that which is real itself. That's why it's effortless. So this is similar to the way Chokhmah perceives the Inorim that are in Atik. It perceives it not because it has done research and come to it and come to be convinced of its presence. It's effortless. It is Atik Mamush. It actually relates to it. It actually has cognizance of and experiences it. And yet we're saying that this Pnimis Atik, the way it is recognized and experienced in Chokhmah, is not comparable to the way it is in Atik itself, in Oynik itself. Pnimis Abba, now it's Pnimis of Chokhmah. There remain Madreges, but even at the Madrege that we are aware of. As we spoke the other day, that the tip of Chokhmah is called Amunah. That's as we say over here, it is not to be known and understood, because Amunah is not something to be known and understood. We just know this is the truth, we know it. But to know why is it the truth and what that consists of is not shaykh to know. Can't explain it to you. This knowledge of the Emunah is so powerful, and is so real, that When there's a challenge, Rahman Islam, of giving up one's life, it's not a challenge. It's not a challenge. Because this is much more real than the whole world that we're observing. That's an amazing thing. Where is that? What is this Pnimis Atik? Now, where Pnimis and Pnimis Rotzen come from? Pnimis are in a person. This is the principle that the nefesh, the neshama, the life element in the human being is not owned by him. Is not activated by his experience. It is something which is given to him from the source of life, from the neighbors. And that is one and bound up with its source. This is its reality. This is a reality way beyond the reality that exists in the world. The reality that exists in the world is all, I would say, a compositional reality, a proven reality. This is an essential reality. How is it an essential reality in this human being who is a separate Metzius? The answer is that in this human being there is a spark and a spirit, a godly spirit. And that godly spirit is what gives him life. And godly spirit is what he is aware of in his chokhmah. And this is why he values that spirit, that life element, more than his worldly experience. So this is what we are required to understand here is that Pnimis Abba is Pnimis Atik. What we sense in Pnimis Abba is literally Pnimis Atik, the truth itself, to the extent that we can go Amesiris Nefesh, Rahman Islam, if it's necessary. Which means it's real. It's not something that we surmise and we project. And yet there's a difference between the way this is recognized in the Chokhmah and the way it is in the Rotzen Anoinag of the Nefesh. In the Chokhmah also, it defies knowledge and understanding. Like we say, Amunah. Amunah is not something that can be understood. It is true, it cannot be understood. Nevertheless, there is an element of cognizance, of knowledge. This is why it's in Chokhmah. And this is why we're saying that these are two different madrigas. And that is the principle of Kesef being the mamutza. When ha-matzil and netzorim. It has an element of matzil and there's an element of netzorim.
Wow. principle of
Yeah,
Kesser being a Mamutza, you're saying is the same principle as that Chochmah can sense Atik. In other words, it's in both cases. What's the same principle?
Where it is in Chochmah,
Yeah.
Chochmah, this is already the Metzon.
Right.
Where it is in the Atik, this is the Matzah. In Atik itself, in Kesser itself, there are two Madrigas.
Yeah.
Madrigas are Atik and Arich. What is Atik and Arich? The word Arich means long. Arichampi, which means the big. And this is in contrast to Ze'ir Ampin, the small one. The small. This is Ze'ir Ampin, this is the way in Midas is seen, the spheres are in Atzilus. Arichampi, this is the source of the spheres. When they are big state, where they are in the source. And above that, there is the Atik. Atik means that which is remote and removed.
It's not a source.
Huh?
It's not a source.
Right, it's removed. But in its state of remove, it is in one state, in one madrege, in one presence together with Arich. In Kesser is Atik and Arich. Now, very briefly, the difference between Arich and Ze'ir Ampin. Arich Ampin and Ze'ir Ampin is that Ze'ir Ampin, these are the spheres as they are mislabish in Keli. In Atzilus there is Eretz for Keli. Even though the Kelim are also Lakus and so that the Rebbe explains, nevertheless there is an element of Oir and Keli. In Arich there is no Keli. This is the spheres in their essential state, where they are true in essence. They are spheres, and yet they are not a metzius of spheres. There's no keli for it. Now, to relate to that, again, is a similar thing that we said before, that despite the fact that Chochmah is a koyach, is a functioning koyach, we say, no, it's a functioning koyach, but it's an etzem. Because in Atzmus itself, there is this element that's called Chochmah. Like he said before, that in Atzmus itself, there is the Ayin that he knows himself. That's a Chochmah. Chochmah and all the spheres have an essential presence. They're not just functional. The principle of an essential presence, not just functional, is something which we discussed many times. In a simple terms, this is, like we said, that a table has a function. But a table to the human being is an essential element, not just a function. He doesn't feel full-fledged human if he doesn't have a table. Not just the function is inconvenient. It means that there is an essential element to this. So here we see a perfect example, illustration, that a functional Ayin really has an essential to it. And going back up, as we discussed many times, going back up into the essence of the human being and so forth, there we can actually recognize that this is really, truly a human, this mitzvah, that he is remote and removed from everything, from function. This is a true element in the human being. Sure. Okay, so we are up to this parenthesis over here. So we'll go into very briefly. Okay, the principle that we're discussing now is that we have the similar Inyan. The Pnimis Atik, the way it is in Atik and the way it is in Pnimis Achoch. It's the same one and it's not the same one. And as we pointed out in the mashal of sight is the reality, the same thing, but it's not the same thing. Because this reality, the way it is unto itself, is on a different level of reality. And as it's explained elsewhere, in discussing the Chochma de Atik, Shenikro, that Chochma of Atik is called Seichel Muflo. Wondrous seichel, remote seichel. It's a seichel, but mufla. Mufla comes from what pella, a wonder. Hainu shemufla mebechinas chochma da'atzilus, which means it is remote and wonder. It's a wonder from the perspective of chochma da'atzilus. K'moi, similar to hafloas mehuz horuchni misechel onush. The hafloa, the pella, the remoteness, the supremacy, mehuz horuchni, of the ruchni is the mehuz, ruchni is the presence, from seichel onush, from how this is from human seichel. Now, as we point out many times, Seichel Anushi is also Seichel. Like we say, we understand human value, human quality, human self-respect. Seichel Anushi. Mahuz Horuchni is mufla from that. What is the mahus of a neshama? That's a completely different thing. Seichel Anushi is also a sensitivity, and it's not physical, but it doesn't compare to mahus haruch. Seichel Anushi is like a projection, a surmise, a sense. Mahus haruch, that is a reality. Gabe Moshiach Siv. Okay. I wanted to mention what Moshiach over here. Okay. Let's stop here. This is it for today. Have a good day.
Can you explain this surmise? What do you mean by surmise?
Surmise?
Seichel Anushi, like there's a surmise.
projection.
It's not really sensing the reality. It's idea.
Right. Like we said before that you have to sit by a table when it comes to eating. It's definitely respect. But it's not an imperative in it. And you have to actually focus in and train yourself to have that sense. And it's possible to ignore it. And then you're missing something. And you can live without it. And you can walk in the street and eat your bagel, and the Chacham say your bagel lekil, says it's okay, it tastes just as good.
So the Fabringen is at Yehuda Foster's home tonight at 8:30, and everyone knows his address.
Okay, thank you.
You can look it up in the top list.
Okay, go ahead.